We've begun our focus on the five remembrances, and we're really in the first, remembering the truth that we are all aging and getting older. I am of the nature to age. I have not gone beyond aging. And Susan shared in her talk a few weeks ago about the story of the Buddha connected to these five remembrances. Before he was the Buddha, when he was a prince, how he was intentionally kept from seeing anyone who was old or sick or dying. And yet he snuck out of the palace and had encounters with each, and then also saw a fourth person on his fourth night out, a monk, a mendicant, more peaceful than peace itself. When he saw someone old, someone sick, someone dying, he wondered, will this happen to me? Will this happen to everyone I know? And he knew in those moments that it was so. And we might just kind of imagine and wonder what that might have been like for him. Right? To see on that first time out someone who was old when he never had before, and how that rattled him. Right? And maybe in that discomfort, in that unsettling, his life was changed and began to change. His view was changed. Maybe life isn't the way I thought it was. And it set him on a path to understand and live in relation to these truths in a different way. And that's really our task. And it's not easy. Like him, these moments of remembering or coming into contact with these truths are rattling. I think about the definition of the Buddha, the awakened one. And while he wasn't yet awakened fully by these encounters, as Susan said, they were necessary for the beginning of his path to full awakening. And so I wanted to just invite everyone first to even reflect what the moments were in your life when maybe you realized or knew in some deep way that you and everyone you know will age, will get old. And maybe these were moments that felt very challenging and difficult, or brought some fear or overwhelm. Or perhaps throughout your life, you've also had moments of kind of awakening to this that have brought some ease and peace or acceptance. And as with really all of the different aspects of Vipassana practice, the remembrances are really not a tool to be used to judge ourselves, to force the heart to open, or to force the mind to be at peace with the truth of impermanence and aging. They're really an invitation to remember and come into contact with these truths as the Buddha did. And to notice, we can notice what reactions, what relationship we have to these truths in each moment. As I was thinking about this talk, I remembered a moment that I often think of with the meditation teacher, Yang O, in a retreat I was in many years ago. I asked him, why is the present moment so important? What's the deal with Vipassana meditation and the present moment? And he was really thoughtful and kind of took a moment, and he said, I think it's really because it's only in this moment, only here and now, that we actually can bring any of these qualities we talk about and try to cultivate to bear. And that feels really relevant to these practices of the five remembrances, right? I can't say I had a moment of accepting this aging body, and so I'm good now. I'm all set. I've done it. I'm there. I'm in acceptance. And we can't say, I think when I'm 80, that's when I'll start that's when I'm going to start really accepting and working with and being with this truth, because we don't know if we're going to make it to 80, and we don't know that we'll be up for that then. And the aging process is always changing. We're always having to relate to a new now. And so, even again, in this moment, maybe we can take a breath together. Maybe we close our eyes and just for a moment become aware of time passing, the body breathing, the body aging, impermanent, changing, even as we are sitting here together. And perhaps just noticing anything you can about your relationship to that, or your habitual relationship to that truth. We know that our relationship to anything that's arising, anything that's happening, can often be tinged with different flavors of hatred, greed, and delusion. Right? So we might notice aversion in some form, not liking, recoiling, even disgust as we think about or make contact with aging, our bodies or others. We might notice delusion or some form of delusion, right? Denial, pretending it's not happening, dissociating, distancing. We may notice some flavor of greed, like wanting or grief or longing, regret, nostalgia, or maybe some urgency around trying to keep youth around. And none of these is bad, right? But we want to be honest with however we're relating to the truth of aging. Someone gave an example last week in the Q&A, sharing that the monks who had been on their long walk and journey across America, there was one who had been injured and had shared that they had been scared in that moment that they were going to die. And that felt really impactful to me, right? To remember these are monks who are practicing coming to terms with these kinds of truths again and again, and still fear arose because it's natural. And so whatever we notice in response to the practice of remembering, we may need to be gentle. I know for me, fear is probably more of what I notice when I really connect to the truth that I'm aging. I've always looked and felt very young. I'm the youngest in my family among my siblings. And it has lately been a bit of a shock when I notice like graying hair and wrinkles, and when I notice generational gaps between my younger clients and me, or with younger colleagues, family members. I can become aware that I don't have children. And so thoughts can arise of, will I struggle? Will I be alone as I age or as I die? I notice fears of losing myself through loss of memory or mind, physical capacity. And I notice the attachment to this idea of me and kind of wanting to keep that around, right, and have that be solid. Fear of other losses, because I know as I age, other people will be aging or maybe won't even be here. And so the unknown and uncertainty of all that can be really hard and anxiety producing, and can bring a gripping or then kind of that habitual turning away. And so let's see if we can be with and be okay with what we notice as we invite ourselves into these moments of actually remembering, making contact with this truth. And to remember that even the Buddha had to practice this, right? He didn't see it in that moment as a prince and then never had to come to terms with it again and again. And so we will invite, you'll hear throughout as we focus on this, um, just the invitation, the possibility. Can we relate to this from the place of a spacious heart, accepting or even celebrating these aging bodies? And when that's hard, how do we bring in the kindness and tenderness and patience to feel into the heart space that can care for how painful and scary change and loss and uncertainty can be? So we can remember again and again, this will happen to me. This is happening to me. This is happening to everyone I know. Mm. Thank you. Thanks for your attention and time. And let's really gently bring ourselves into the transition to formal practice. And just see what might be supportive in that. Often a little bit of movement in some form, maybe shaking out. There's a lot of restlessness, maybe some stretches. If you'd like, you can stand up and kind of reestablish your sitting posture. Sometimes it can be helpful as we're sitting to move from buttock to buttock, or kind of move our sense of contact with the cushion or chair, just to feel for balance a little bit, and a sense of uprightness. And as you do that, maybe inviting a few deeper or slower breaths. And see if it's possible to really feel that breath, the in-breath and the out-breath. Making that gentle contact with our bodies that are breathing. Contact, sensing the contact with the air around us that might be cool or warm. And in your own time, allowing the attention to maybe settle with the movement of the breath. Perhaps the coming and going of sounds. Just as a way to steady and stabilize the attention. We might notice if the heart has felt welcomed into this practice as well. And so that doesn't have to feel rigid or forced or pressured. And in moments, if it feels available, you might just see, you bring to mind that phrase, I am of the nature to age. I have not gone beyond aging. Noticing how the mind relates to that moment to moment. How the heart may respond or relate to that. Whenever it feels right, just coming back to your anchor, breath, sounds, sensations. Nothing left out. Everything welcome. Perhaps in moments, if it's supportive, remembering that we are not alone in this. This is true for us and true for everyone in this space, everyone we know. Perhaps what it would feel like if we were all meditating in a whole together, aware of our own breathing, aging, changing bodies, aware of those around us. All beings in all directions, aging, changing, just like us. Each of us working with how we relate to that within ourselves and with each other.